The great chamber of Velith Prime buzzed. With worried voices, hundreds of alien beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows, their different forms, creating a rainbow of colors under the dim emergency lights. The air felt heavy. With fear, Ambassador Kethra stood at the center podium, her tall, thin body shaking slightly. Her skin looked like blue crystal, and it caught what little light there was. She had been alive for over 300 years, but never had she felt so helpless. Fellow members of the council, she began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber, we have lost another system. The Helix colonies fell yesterday. That makes 12 worlds in 4 months. A low rumble of distress rolled through the crowd. Some beings clicked their claws nervously. Others wrapped their tentacles around themselves for comfort. The bird-like Kiorans ruffled their bright feathers in agitation. The Zahirian Empire shows no signs of slowing down. Kethra continued, their war machines adapt to every weapon we use against them. Their soldiers seem to feel no fear. They take our worlds and strip them bare. General Voxar of the Krillian Defense Force stood up. His massive frame towered over the other delegates, his rocky skin scarred from decades of peaceful service. We have tried everything, he said in his deep, rumbling voice. Our best fleets, our smartest battle plans, our most advanced weapons. Nothing works. They learned too fast, added Dr. Ushul, the council's chief science advisor. Her large round eyes blinked rapidly as she spoke. Every time we attack with energy weapons, they develop shields. When we use kinetic rounds, they grow armor. When we try stealth, they improve their sensors. It's like fighting an enemy that gets stronger every time you hit it. The chamber erupted in panicked chatter. Some delegates called for immediate evacuation of the core worlds. Others suggested trying to negotiate with the Zephyrians, though everyone knew they had never accepted surrender from any world they attacked. Keth raised her hand for silence. There is one option. We have not tried, she said quietly. The chamber fell silent again. The deep space protocol, gasps echoed through the hall. The deep space protocol had been created over 1,000 years ago, back when the council was young and afraid of the unknown regions beyond their explored space. It was meant as a last resort, a call for help from whatever unknown civilizations might exist in the dark between stars. You cannot be serious, said council leader. His silver fur bristled with alarm. We have no idea who or what might answer such a call. They could be worse than the Zephyrians. How could they be worse? Kethra asked. The Zephyrians will destroy every living thing in the galaxy if we don't stop them. At least unknown aliens might help us, or they might see us as easy prey. Morden replied. Weakened by war, desperate for aid, perfect targets for conquest. General Voxar slammed his massive fist on his desk, making several smaller delegates jump. I would rather fight unknown aliens than watch the Zephyrians burn every world we hold. Dear, he growled, at least we would die fighting instead of running. Dr. Yilshaw's eyes blinked even faster as she accessed data files in her head. The protocol arrays are still functional, she reported. We could send the signal within hours. It would reach the furthest edges of the galaxy in about 50 days. And what would we say? Asked Delegate Harvin, his tentacles curling nervously. Hello, unknown aliens, please come save us from other unknown aliens. We keep it simple. Cathra said, ancient species of the galaxy seek aid. Great threat. Approaches, coordinates attached, come. If you can. The debate raged for hours. Some delegates feared that any response to their call would bring more trouble. Others worried that no one would answer at all. A few suggested that civilizations advanced enough or interstellar travel might already know about the council and had chosen to ignore them for good reason. But as reports came in of another Zaffiran victory at the Omega Station, the vote was finally called by a narrow margin. The council approved the activation of the Deep Space Protocol. Cathra watched as technicians prepared the massive transmission arrays. The equipment looked ancient compared to modern council technology, but it was built to last and to reach incredible distances. Soon their desperate message would travel faster than light to every corner of the galaxy. What if no one comes? Whispered Delegate Harvin as they watched the final preparations. Then we fight alone until the end, General Voxar replied. But if someone does come, we better hope they're friendly. The transmission began at exactly midnight Velith Prime Standard Time. Massive dishes turned toward the void, sending the council's plea racing through space. The message was simple, desperate and honest. They needed help, and they needed it soon. What the council members didn't know was that their message would travel to a small yellow star, unremarkable among billions of others. Around that star orbited several planets, including one blue world covered in vast oceans and swirling white clouds. This world had never appeared in any council survey. It sat too far from established trade routes in a region of space considered empty and worthless. If council scientists had bothered to study it, they would have been horrified by what they found. The planet's surface was constantly changing. Massive storms raged across its oceans. Earthquakes split its lands. Volcanoes spewed fire and ash into its atmosphere. Ice caps expanded and shrank with dramatic climate changes. The very air was filled with a gas so reactive it could cause fires. Any council species would have classified it as a Class 12 death world, completely unsuitable for life. They would have been wrong. This world not only supported life, but had produced a species that thrived on its constant dangers. These beings had learned to adapt to any environment, to fight against overwhelming odds, and to never give up no matter how hopeless things seemed. They called their world Earth, and they called themselves humans. The council's message reached Earth's newly built deep space monitoring station on Luna, humanity's moon. The station's computers detected the alien transmission immediately and began working to decode its meaning. Within hours, the message had been translated and sent to every major government on Earth. The reaction was immediate and intense. Humanity had been alone in the universe for all of recorded history, and suddenly they had proof that other intelligent life existed. But more than that, these aliens were in trouble. They needed help fighting an enemy that seemed unstoppable. Most humans would have thought twice about getting involved in an alien war. Most humans had never served in Earth's military forces, where the unofficial motto was simple: when someone asks for help, you help them, no matter the odds, no matter the cost. You answer the call. At Luna Station, Captain Jake Morrison read the translated message for the 10th time. The former Marine had seen action in 3 different wars on Earth, and he recognized desperation when he saw it. These aliens were facing something that terrified them, something their advanced civilization couldn't handle. Morrison smiled grimly as he reached for his communication device. He had a feeling that whoever these Zaporans were, and GT, they had never fought anyone quite like humans before. The call went out across Earth's military networks: prepare for humanity's first interstellar mission. They were going to war again, but this time they would be fighting among the stars in the depths of space. The Council's message continued to spread, racing toward the unknown regions beyond their explored territory. Soon their desperate plea would receive an answer. They had no idea what was coming. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, staring at the blue marble that was Earth below. At 42 years old, he had spent most of his adult life in uniform, first as a Marine fighting in the resource wars, then as one of the first officers in humanity's new space force. The translated alien message glowed on the screen beside him. He had read it dozens of times since it arrived 6 hours ago, but it still seemed impossible. Aliens were real. They had found Earth, and they were asking for help, sir. Lieutenant Kelly Walsh entered the observation deck carrying a thick folder of documents. The young communications officer looked exhausted but excited. The linguistics team has finished their full analysis. Morrison took the folder and flipped through the pages. What did they find? It's definitely a genuine alien transmission, Walsh said. Dr. Lisa Park says the mathematical structures are unlike anything human, but the message is clear. There's a galactic government of some kind, and they're being attacked by something called the Zahirian Empire. Morrison nodded slowly. Any idea how far away they are? The transmission came from approximately 2,000 light-years away. Sir, way beyond anything we can reach with current technology. Walsh paused. Except for the new prototype ships. That was the key detail Morrison had been thinking about. Humanity had developed faster than light travel only 3 years ago. The technology was still experimental, dangerous, and limited to just a few ships, but it worked. What's the status on the UES Defiance? Morrison asked. Ready for deep space trials, sir. Dr. Martinez finished the engine modifications last week. Morrison closed the folder and handed it back to Walsh. Get me a secure line to Earth Command. I need to speak with General Cooper. Within minutes, Morrison was connected to General Patricia Cooper, head of Earth's Unified Military Command. The conversation was brief and direct. Jake, please tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking, Cooper said, her weathered face filling the communication screen. Ma'am, we have aliens asking for help. That's a historic moment for humanity. How we respond will define who we are as a species. It could also get a lot of good people killed. Cooper replied. We don't know anything about these aliens, their enemies, or what we'd be walking into. Morrison leaned forward with respect. General, we know they're fighting something that has them scared. Scared enough to send a message into the unknown, hoping someone will help. That sounds familiar. Cooper was quiet for a moment. Morrison knew she was thinking about her own military experience. Times when help had come from unexpected places during humanity's darkest hours. What would you need? She asked finally. The Defiance, a volunteer crew, and permission to make first contact. Jake The Defiance can only carry a crew of 12, even if these aliens are friendly. You'd be massively outnumbered. Sometimes the smallest force can make the biggest difference, Morrison said. Besides, we're not going there to conquer anyone, we're going to help. Cooperate. I'll need to clear this with the President and the UN Security Council and probably half a dozen other groups who will want to debate this for months. General, according to the message, these aliens have been losing worlds for 4 months. They might not have months. The call ended with Cooper promising to expedite the decision-making process. Morrison knew that meant calling in favors and cutting through red tape at speeds that would make bureaucrats dizzy. While Morrison waited for approval, Dr. Lisa Park worked with her team to learn everything possible about the alien message. The linguistics building at Luna Station had become a hive of activity with experts from every field of study contributing their knowledge. The mathematical constants in their message are identical to ours, Dr. Park explained to Morrison during a briefing. That suggests they understand the same physical laws we do, but their language structure is completely different from any human language. Different how? Morrison asked. They seem to think in multiple timelines simultaneously. Their grammar includes past, present, and future are all in the same sentence. It's like they're used to planning for multiple possible outcomes at once. Morrison found that interesting. What about their technology level? Far beyond ours in some ways. Park admitted they have faster than light communication, which we haven't figured out yet, but their ship designs, based on the technical specifications they included, are actually quite conservative, almost offensive. Meaning what? Meaning they build ships to survive attacks, not to attack others. Their weapons are defensive systems. Their armor is designed to absorb damage, and their speed comes from running away rather than pursuing enemies. Morrison smiled grimly. That was very different from human ship design, which focused on speed, maneuverability, and hitting power. Human ships were built by a species that had learned to fight for everything they had. The approval came faster than anyone expected. President Elena Rodriguez personally authorized the mission with support from every major nation on Earth. The message was simple. Humanity would respond to the alien call for help. Morrison selected his crew carefully. He needed people who could handle the unknown, work under pressure, and represent humanity well during first contact. His choices were unconventional but practical. Commander Ryan Stone became his second in command. Stone was younger than Morrison, but he had led special operations missions in some of Earth's most dangerous places. He was calm under pressure and good at thinking outside the box. Chief Engineer Paula Martinez got the job of keeping their experimental faster than light drive working during the long journey. Martinez had designed half the systems on the Defiance and knew the ship better than anyone else alive. Dr. Alex Turner signed on as their medical officer and science advisor. Turner had served as a combat medic in 3 wars and had also earned degrees in biology and physics. If they encountered alien diseases or technology, Turner would be their first line of defense. Lieutenant Kelly Walsh volunteered for communications duty. Her work translating the original alien message made her the obvious choice for handling first contact protocols. The rest of the crew filled essential Positions, navigation, weapons, life support, and emergency repair. Each person was a volunteer who understood. They might not come home. The UES Defiance itself was humanity's most advanced warship, built with lessons learned from centuries of conflict on Earth. Unlike the defensive alien ships Dr. Park had described, the Defiance was designed to attack, maneuver, and survive in hostile environments. Its armor was made from materials forged in Earth's most extreme conditions. Its weapons included both energy and kinetic systems, giving it flexibility in combat. Most importantly, its faster than light drive could operate in conditions that would disable more sensitive systems. As the crew made final preparations, Morrison received intelligence reports about the alien situation. The reports were not encouraging. The Zafran Empire had destroyed 12 civilizations in 4 months. Their ships adapted to any attack. Their soldiers seemed to fear nothing, and they showed no interest in negotiation or mercy. Sir, Commander Stone said as they reviewed the tactical data. These Zapirians sound like they've never met real resistance. All their victories have been against peaceful species who tried to defend themselves using conventional tactics. Your point? Morrison asked. My point is that maybe they've never fought anyone who fights dirty. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing Zafran battle formations. They were precise, organized, and predictable, beautiful examples of military efficiency. They were also exactly the kind of formations that human forces had learned to tear apart during centuries of asymmetric warfare on Earth. You might be right, Ryan, Morrison said. Pack extra ammunition. Departure ceremony was simple but meaningful. Morrison addressed his crew one final time before they entered the faster-than-light jump that would take them to alien space. We're about to become the first humans to meet aliens, he said. We don't know what we'll find out there, but we know why we're going. Someone asked for help. That's enough. The Defiance engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared into the void, carrying humanity's response to the desperate call from the stars. Behind them, Earth waited nervously for word from its children. Among the alien nations, ahead of them, lay the unknown, and a war that would test everything humanity had learned about survival, adaptation, and the will to fight against impossible odds. Journey would take 47 days. Morrison used that time to drill his crew and study everything they knew about their destination. By the time they arrived, they would be as ready as possible for whatever waited in the darkness between stars. What they couldn't know was that their arrival would change the course of galactic history forever. The UES Defiance dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of the Velith system. Alarms immediately began sounding throughout the ship as sensors detected dozens of alien vessels nearby. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Walsh reported from her station. I'm reading at least 30 ships in defensive formation around the 4th planet, Captain. Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien ships were elegant, curved vessels that looked more like works of art than military hardware. They moved in perfect formation, each ship maintaining exact distances from its neighbors and the hostiles. Morrison asked. 6 large vessels on the opposite side of the system, Commander Stone replied. Different design entirely. Angular, aggressive looking. They're holding position, but their weapons are Powered, Dr. Turner looked up from his science station. Jake, I'm reading some strange energy signatures from those hostile ships. It's like they're constantly changing their internal structure. Morrison nodded. The adaptive technology the aliens mentioned. Kelly tried to establish communication with the defensive fleet. Walsh worked at her console for several minutes before shaking her head. Their communication systems are completely different from ours. I can't even figure out what frequencies they use. Keep trying, Morrison said. Paula, take us closer to the defensive fleet, but keep our weapons powered down. We don't want them to think we're hostile. Chief Engineer Martinez guided the Defiance toward the alien formation. As they approached, the human ship became the focus of intense attention. Alien vessels began changing course to intercept them, though they didn't power weapons. Sir, Walsh said excitedly, I'm getting something. It's not voice communication, but there's definitely a pattern here. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic physics constants. They're trying to establish basic communication, Dr. Turner observed. Smart approach for first contact. Morrison leaned forward in his command chair. Kelly, respond with the same type of sequences. Let them know we understand mathematics and physics. The exchange continued for nearly an hour. Slowly, both sides built up a basic mathematical language that could convey simple concepts. Finally, the aliens transmitted coordinates and what appeared to be an invitation. They want us to dock with their largest ship. Walsh translated, I think they're offering to meet face to face. Morrison considered the options. They had come here to help, which meant they needed to establish trust with the aliens, set course for their flagship, but keep our shields up and weapons ready just in case. The alien flagship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Defiance. Its hull gleamed like polished silver, covered in smooth curves that seemed to flow like liquid. Docking bays opened as they approached, revealing chambers that adjusted their size to accommodate the human ship. Their technology is impressive, Martinez admitted as she guided the Defiance into the alien dock. This docking bay is reshaping itself to fit our ship perfectly. Morrison selected a small team for the first contact meeting. Stone, Turner, and Walsh would accompany him while Martinez stayed with the ship. All 4 humans wore their military dress uniforms and carried translation devices that Walsh had quickly programmed. The alien docking bay was filled with atmosphere that read as breathable for humans, though the gravity was slightly lighter than Earth normal. As the humans emerged from their ship, they found themselves surrounded by dozens of alien beings. Morrison had seen the aliens in pictures transmitted during their initial communication, but meeting them in person was still shocking. The beings were tall and thin, with crystalline blue skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Their faces were angular and elegant, with large eyes that showed intelligence and curiosity. One alien stepped forward from the group. Its movements were graceful and careful, like someone walking on ice. When it spoke, the translator device rendered its words into English with a musical quality. Greetings, beings from the unknown regions. I am Ambassador K-Thra of the Alteran Republic. We did not expect anyone to answer our call for help. Morrison stepped forward and offered what he hoped was a respectful gesture. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance. We received your message and came to offer assistance. A ripple of excitement passed through the gathered aliens. Several of them began speaking rapidly, in their own language, their voices, creating harmonious sounds that the translators couldn't process. You came from Earth, Kathra asked, her large eyes widening. We have no records of your system. How far did you travel? About 2,000 light years, Morrison replied. Simply, the effect of his words was immediate and dramatic. Several aliens stepped backward in apparent shock. Others began talking excitedly among themselves. Kathra herself seemed stunned. 2,000 light years, she repeated. That would place your world in the outer darkness beyond the edge of known space. And GT, how is that possible? And GT, Commander Stone spoke up. Our species developed interstellar travel recently. We heard your call for help and decided to respond. Dr. Turner was scanning the aliens with a handheld device. Captain, their biology is fascinating. They appear to be silicon-based rather than carbon-based like us. That would explain their crystalline appearance. Catherine noticed the device and tensed slightly. What is that instrument? A medical scanner, Turner explained. I'm a doctor. I wanted to make sure our species are compatible for close contact. I don't want to accidentally make anyone sick. The concept seemed to confuse the aliens. Several of them exchanged glances before Kathra responded. You are concerned about our health even though you do not know us. Of course, Turner replied. That's what doctors do. We try to help people stay healthy. Morrison sensed an opportunity. Ambassador, we came here because your message said you needed help. What can you tell us about this threat you're facing? Kathra gestured for the humans to follow her deeper into the ship. As they walked through corridors lined with what appeared to be living crystal formations, she explained the situation. The Zephyrian Empire has been expanding for several months, she said. They possess technology that adapts to our defenses. Every time we develop a new weapon or strategy, they learn to counter it within days. What do their soldiers look like? Stone asked. They are similar to us in basic form, but enhanced with biomechanical implants. The implants make them stronger, faster, and apparently fearless. They show no mercy to civilians and take no prisoners. They entered a large chamber filled with alien officers studying tactical displays. The displays showed battle formations, ship movements, and what appeared to be damage assessments. Everything looked very organized and methodical. Morrison studied the tactical data with interest. These battle plans are very detailed, he observed. Of course, replied General Voxar, who had joined the group. Massive rock-skinned alien towered over the humans. Proper military strategy requires careful planning and precise execution. Stone looked at Morrison with a slight smile. Morrison caught his meaning immediately. These aliens fought like textbook militarism taught. Warfare organized, predictable, and by the rules. What kind of world do the Zephyrians come from? Dr. Turner asked. Dr. Yilshaw, the Council's science advisor, answered with her large eyes blinking rapidly. Zephyria is a garden world, controlled climate, managed ecosystems, perfect conditions for life. Very similar to most Council worlds. Turner actually chuckled at this response, causing alarm among the aliens. I'm sorry, he said quickly. It's just that your description reminds me of Something, what does it remind you of? Cathra asked nervously. Morrison decided. It was time for some honesty. Ambassador, may I ask what kind of world you come from? Altera Prime is a paradise, Cathra said proudly. We have eliminated natural disasters, controlled our weather, and created perfect living conditions for all our citizens, and the other council worlds, similar achievements, General Voxar said. Mark of an advanced civilization is the ability to control and perfect one's environment. The four humans exchanged glances. Morrison could see understanding dawning in his crew's eyes. These aliens, for all their advanced technology, came from worlds that had been tamed and controlled. They had never faced the kind of challenges that forged species in fire and blood. Captain Morrison, Cathra said carefully. What kind of world is Earth? Morrison was quiet for a moment, considering how to explain Earth to beings who had never experienced natural hardship. Ambassador, Earth is what you would probably call a hostile environment. We have storms that can level cities, earthquakes that split continents, volcanoes that can change our climate, and ice ages that reshape our world. Aliens stared at him in horror. And your species survived in such conditions? General Voxar asked. More than survived, Stone said with a grin. We thrived. Every challenge made us stronger and more adaptable, Dr. Turner added. Our evolution was shaped by constant environmental pressure. We learned to adapt quickly, work together under stress, and find solutions to impossible problems. Walsh spoke up for the first time. We also learned to fight not just for territory or resources, but for survival itself. The silence that followed was profound. Morrison could see the aliens processing this information and beginning to understand the implications. You come from a death world, Cathra whispered. Captain Morrison spent the next 3 days studying everything the Council knew about the Zephyrian Empire. What he found confirmed his worst fears about how the aliens had been fighting this war. They're fighting like gentlemen, Commander Stone said as they reviewed tactical reports in the Council's war room. Look at these battle plans. Everything is organized, predictable, and fair. Dr. Turner looked up from his analysis of Zephyrian biotechnology. The enemy soldiers have neural implants that connect them to a central command network. Every piece of data from every battle gets shared instantly across their entire military. That's how they adapt so quickly, Morrison realized. Every time the Council tries a new tactic, the Zephyrians learn from it and share that knowledge with every soldier in their army. Lieutenant Walsh was working with alien technicians to intercept Zephyrian communications. Jake, you need to hear this, she said, activating a translation of intercepted enemy messages. The Zephyrian voices were cold and mechanical, enhanced by their bioimplants. They spoke of conquest like it was a simple mathematical equation. Resistance was calculated, overcome, and filed away for future reference. They sound like computers, Stone observed. No emotion, no fear, no doubt, just cold efficiency. Morrison nodded grimly, which explains why they've been so successful against the Council species. The aliens fight with honor and strategy. The Zephyrians fight like machines. Ambassador Cathra entered the war room, followed by General Voxar and Dr. Yelshaw. The alien leaders had been meeting with their own military commanders, trying to develop new strategies based on human input. Captain. Morrison Cathera said, her crystalline features reflecting worry. Our analysts have reviewed your suggestions, but they are concerned about the methods you propose. What specifically concerns them? Morrison asked. General Voxar stepped forward, his massive form casting shadows across the room. You speak of abandoning defensive positions, using civilian areas as battlegrounds, and attacking enemy supply lines. These tactics seem, he struggled for words, universalized. Stone laughed, causing the aliens to step back nervously. General, with respect, civilization is what got you into this mess. You've been fighting a civilized war against an enemy that doesn't follow your rules. But there must be rules, Dr. Yilshaw protested, her large eyes blinking rapidly. Without rules, war becomes chaos. Innocent beings suffer. Entire worlds are destroyed. Morrison stood and walked to the tactical display showing Zapirian controlled territories. Doctor, how many innocent beings have already suffered? How many worlds have already been destroyed while you followed the rules? The question hung in the air like a challenge. The alien leaders exchanged uncomfortable glances, knowing the answer was millions of dead and 12 conquered systems. You want to know the difference between us and them? Turner said, gesturing toward the Zephyrian communications data. They enhanced themselves with technology to become more efficient killers. We didn't enhancement. Our world made us efficient killers naturally. Walsh had been quietly working at her station during the conversation. Now she looked up with excitement. I found something important. The Zephyrian command network has a weakness. Everyone gathered around her station as she explained her discovery. Their bioimplants require constant communication with their central command system. If that communication is disrupted, the soldiers become confused and disoriented. We suspected as much, General Voxar said, but their communication systems are heavily shielded and protected by multiple backup networks. That's because you've been trying to attack their communications directly, Morrison said, understanding Walsh's discovery. What if we don't attack the system itself, but flooded with garbage data? Dr. Yilshaw's eyes blinked even faster as she processed the idea. You mean overwhelming their network with false information? Exactly, Walsh said. I've been analyzing their communication protocols. They're designed for efficiency, not security. If we can introduce chaos into their data stream, their adaptation advantage becomes a weakness. Chief Engineer Martinez had been working with council technicians to modify their defensive systems. She entered the war room carrying a tablet full of design specifications. Jake, you need to see what we've accomplished, she said, displaying her work on the main screen. The council's defensive systems are incredibly advanced, but they're built for predictable threats. The display showed modifications to council ships and weapons. Instead of elegant energy shields, Martinez had installed redundant physical barriers made from materials that would be considered primitive by alien standards. Titanium steel plating, General Voxar asked in confusion. That technology is thousands of years old, and it works, Martinez replied. Your energy shields adapt and improve when hit by energy weapons. Steel plating just sits there and takes the punishment. Sometimes old solutions are the best solutions. Morrison studied the modifications with approval. What About weapons, I've replaced their precision targeting systems with rapid fire kinetic weapons, Martinez continued. Instead of one perfect shot, we can deliver hundreds of imperfect shots. Quantity over quality. The alien leaders looked horrified by the crude modifications to their advanced technology. Dr. Yilsho spoke first. This approach seems so wasteful. Why use many inefficient weapons when one efficient weapon would accomplish the same goal? Because efficient weapons are predictable, Stone explained. The Zapirians can adapt to predictable threats. They can't adapt to chaos. Morrison made a decision that would change the course of the war. General Voxar, I need volunteer crews for a special mission. We're going to test our new approach against a Zapirian patrol. What kind of mission? Cathra asked nervously. The kind your military academy would never approve of, Morrison replied. We're going to ambush them. Next day, a small fleet of modified council ships left Velith Prime under Morrison's command. The ships looked different now, their elegant curves hidden under crude but effective armor plating. Their weapons had been replaced with systems that prioritized volume of fire over accuracy. Walsh had prepared a special surprise for the Zephyrian communication network. Using captured enemy equipment, she had created a virus that would broadcast chaotic data directly into their command system. Remember, Morrison addressed the mixed human and alien crew over the communication system. We're not trying to fight fair, we're trying to win. That means we hit them when they don't expect it, from directions they can't predict, using methods they've never seen before. The ambush site was an asteroid field near the edge of Zapirian territory. Morrison's fleet hid among the rocks, waiting for the enemy patrol to arrive. When the Zephyrian ships appeared, they moved in perfect formation, scanning methodically for threats. There, beautiful, one alien crew member whispered over the communication channel. So precise, so coordinated. They're also dead, Stone replied grimly. They just don't know it yet. Morrison gave the order to attack. Instead of emerging from hiding to engage in honorable combat, the modified ships fired from concealment. Waves of kinetic projectiles tore through space, overwhelming the Zephyrian shields through sheer volume. At the same time, Walsh activated her communication virus. The Zephyrian ships suddenly began moving erratically as their command network filled with contradictory orders, false sensor data, and random noise. The battle lasted only minutes. When it was over, 3 Zephyrian ships had been destroyed and 2 more were drifting helplessly with their crews unconscious from neural feedback. Incredible, General Voxar said over the communication channel. We destroyed an entire patrol without losing a single ship. More importantly, Turner added, we proved that their adaptation advantage can be turned against them. They adapted to the chaos we fed their network, which made the chaos worse. Morrison ordered the fleet to return to Velith Prime immediately. They had learned what they needed to know. The Zephyrians were not invincible. They were just a different kind of enemy than the Council had ever faced. What happens now? Ambassador Keith asked as they traveled back to Council space. Morrison smiled grimly. Now we stop fighting their war and make them fight ours. It's time to show the galaxy what Deathworlders do when someone threatens their friends. The war was about to change in ways the Zephyrian Empire could never have imagined. They had built their strategy around fighting. Civilized species who followed predictable rules. They were about to face an enemy that had learned survival in the most hostile environment imaginable. Earth's children were going to teach the galaxy a new kind of warfare, one that their home world had been preparing them for since the dawn of their species. The Zephyrian Empire launched their final assault on Velith Prime exactly as their computer models predicted they would. Admiral Zakel commanded the largest fleet ever assembled by the Empire, confident that this battle would end the war once and for all. All ships report ready for combat, his second in command announced. Enemy defensive positions detected at the expected coordinates. They are maintaining standard formation patterns. Zethal studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The organic species had not learned anything new since their last encounter. They would resist briefly, adapt their defenses, and then fall like all the others. Begin they assault. Follow pattern Omega-7. Target their command ships first. The massive Zephyrian fleet moved forward in perfect coordination. Each ship knew its role. Each weapon had its target. Each movement was calculated for maximum efficiency. It was a beautiful demonstration of enhanced military precision. Then everything went wrong. Instead of meeting the attack with organized defensive lines, the Council ships scattered like frightened animals. They broke formation and fled in all directions, some diving toward the planet's surface, others racing toward the outer system. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported with confusion. The enemy is retreating, but their movement patterns make no strategic sense. Some ships are heading directly into asteroid fields. Zethal frowned. This was not how organic species usually behaved. They typically maintained formation until the last moment, fighting honorably even when defeat was certain. Pursue them, he ordered. Do not let them escape. To reorganize. The Zephyrian ship spread out to chase the fleeing Council vessels. This was exactly what Captain Morrison had been hoping for. Now Morrison said quietly into his communication device, hidden among the asteroid's debris fields and sensor shadows throughout the system, human-modified Council ships began their real attack. They emerged from impossible positions, fired from directions the Zephyrians couldn't predict, and used tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Commander Stone led a boarding party that used the planet's gravity well to slingshot their ship directly into the belly of a Zephyrian cruiser. Instead of trying to disable the ship's weapons or engines, they headed straight for the communication array. Remember, Stone told his mixed human and alien team as they cut through the enemy hull, we're not here to capture this ship, we're here to drive them crazy. They moved through the Zephyrian corridors like apex predators hunting prey. The enemy soldiers, enhanced with biomechanical implants, were stronger and faster than normal organic beings, but they had never fought enemies who used the ship's own systems against them. Stone's team shut down artificial gravity in some sections while overloading it in others. They introduced random noise into the ventilation system and activated emergency lighting in patterns that disrupted the enhanced soldiers' visual systems. Meanwhile, Dr. Turner was leading his own mission aboard the Zephyrian flagship. His target was the central command network that coordinated the entire enemy fleet. Alex, you need To hurry, Morrison's voice crackled over. The communication system, there. Adapting to our first wave of attacks. Turner and his team had fought their way to the ship's data core, a crystalline structure that pulsed with information, flowing between thousands of enhanced soldiers instead of trying to destroy it. Turner began introducing something the Zapirians had never experienced. Broadcasting now, he reported. Activating the device. Lieutenant Walsh had prepared. The device began transmitting recordings from Earth, not military communications or technical data, but something far more disturbing to minds that had been shaped by technology and order. It broadcast the sounds of Earth's natural chaos. Thunder rolled through the Zephyrian command network. Lightning cracked across their data streams. The roar of hurricanes mixed with the grinding of earthquakes. Volcanic eruptions echoed through communication channels designed for precise military coordination, for soldiers whose minds had been enhanced to process and adapt to any threat. The sensory assault was devastating. Their implants tried desperately to analyze and counter the chaotic data, but there was nothing to analyze. It was just Earth being Earth. What is happening? Admiral Zethal demanded as his bridge crew began showing signs of distress. Several enhanced officers were holding their heads, their implants overloading as they tried to process the impossible sensory data. Unknown interference in our command network. His communications officer reported, his voice strained. The data makes no logical sense. Our systems cannot adapt to it. On the battlefield, individual Zephyrian ships began operating independently as their connection to the central command network deteriorated. Some continued following their original orders, others tried to adapt to the changing situation, and a few simply stopped moving entirely as their crews struggled with neural feedback. Chief Engineer Martinez was taking advantage of the confusion to implement the most audacious part of Morrison's plan. Using a modified council transport, she approached the largest Zephyrian battleship from directly below, using the planet's magnetic field to mask her approach. "This is insane," muttered the alien pilot flying the transport. No military academy in the galaxy would approve this maneuver. Good thing I didn't go to a military academy, Martinez replied as she prepared her special cargo. Instead of trying to penetrate the battleship's shields or armor, Martinez's plan was much simpler. She was going to ram the transport directly into the enemy ship's main reactor. The transport accelerated upward, its improvised armor absorbing defensive fire as it closed the distance. At the last moment, Martinez and her crew evacuated in escape pods, while the transport's automated systems completed the suicidal attack. Explosion that followed was visible from the other side of the star system. The Zephyrian battleship, designed to withstand any conventional weapon, was torn apart from the inside as its reactor went critical. Direct hit on the enemy flagship, Walsh reported from her position aboard the Defiance, that should send a message to the rest of their fleet. The message was received. Across the battlefield, Zephyrian ships began attempting to withdraw from combat. Their perfect coordination was gone, replaced by individual ships making desperate decisions based on incomplete information. But Morrison wasn't finished. The final phase of his plan required the enemy to believe they were winning even as they lost all Ships begin the feint, he ordered. The human-modified council vessels began broadcasting fake distress signals and appearing to take heavy damage. Some ships vented atmosphere to simulate hull breaches, others shut down their engine to mimic disabled vessels. Admiral Zethal, still struggling with the neural chaos affecting his crew, saw what appeared to be a turning point in the battle. Despite their initial losses, his fleet seemed to be gaining the upper hand. Press the attack, he ordered. Finish them while they're weakened. The Zephyrian ships moved in for what they believed would be the killing blow. Instead, they flew directly into Morrison's trap, hidden throughout the system. The real Council defense fleet had been waiting. These ships hadn't been modified with human weapons or tactics. They were exactly what the Zafarans expected to face, which made them perfect for springing the final surprise. The trap closed like the jaws of some great predator. Zafaran ships found themselves surrounded and outgunned. Their adaptive systems useless because they had no time to adapt. The battle ended with the complete destruction of the Zephyrian assault fleet. Admiral Zethal's flagship was the last to fall, its crew unconscious from neural feedback as Earth's chaotic broadcasts continued to overwhelm their enhanced minds. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors, Ambassador Cathra found Morrison standing in the observation deck of the Council flagship. It's over, she said quietly. The Zethurian Empire is sending surrender negotiations. They want to discuss terms for ending the war. Morrison nodded, still watching the debris field that had once been an unstoppable enemy fleet. What will the Council tell them? That we have new allies, Cathra replied. Allies who taught us that sometimes the best way to preserve civilization is to fight like we have none. She paused, studying Morrison's weathered features. Captain, there is something I must ask. What kind of world creates beings capable of such tactics? Morrison smiled grimly, remembering the question that had started this entire journey. The kind of world that doesn't ask permission to survive. Ambassador Earth taught us that when someone threatens your friends, you don't fight fair, you fight to win. In the weeks that followed, humanity was formally invited to join the Galactic Council, not as junior members seeking guidance, but as the species other civilizations would call when they faced impossible problems. The Zephyrian Empire, meanwhile, began a long process of removing their biomechanical enhancements. Their enhanced minds, designed for efficiency and adaptation, had proven vulnerable to the one thing they couldn't process: pure uncontrolled chaos. Earth's children had announced themselves to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They had taken a war that seemed unwinnable and turned it into a victory through methods that no civilized species would have considered